Namaste. Welcome back, everyone. And if this is your first time, thank you for tuning in to the Warrior Metaphysic. In this one, we're diving into the dark night of the soul. And going through a dark night of the soul can feel very painful, bewildering, even. And if you haven't experienced it yet, it can be scary to even think about. And if you're in it, it can feel scary trying to get through it. But those who have gone through it successfully and made it to the other side can tell you the amazing lessons they've learned and the newly transformed person they've become. I didn't know that dark nights often follow an awakening. And since I recently did a video on awakening, I felt it would be helpful to do a video on the dark night to remove some of the mystery around it and to bring some light to that darkness. And as we watch these videos, you might start to notice a theme when it comes to what can trigger a dark night of the soul, as well as some of the tools that you can use to get through it. To me, one of the scariest things about a dark night of the soul is that if you're not careful, you can prolong the turmoil, or even worse, squander the massive opportunity a dark night affords us if you don't consciously tap into it. So, that being said, I found a lot of these nuggets to be very helpful and help me gain some clarity on how to navigate the dark night of the soul. And I think you will too. So let's get to it.
Dark night of the soul. Chosen one. Have you been feeling lost, broken, or empty lately? Like the light in you went silent and nothing seems to make sense anymore. This phase is called the dark night of the soul. And if you are experiencing it, you are not falling apart. You are waking up. It's the painful moment when your old self dies and the true self starts to rise from the ashes. You question everything. Your faith, your purpose, your identity. All of it feels stripped away. But listen, chosen soul. This darkness isn't to destroy you. It's here to break you open so your light can shine brighter than ever. You are being emptied, so the divine call fill you up again. This is a part of the journey where strength is born. Don't give up. You are not alone. You are evolving. Your breakthrough is on the other side of the pain. Hold on. The light is coming. Comment, I am healing through the darkness if you are on this journey. Peace and light to every chosen soul watching this.
5 signs you are in the dark night of the soul. So let's talk about the dark night of the soul, because some of you are in it and don't even know what to call it. You're not crazy. You're not being punished. You're being processed. So here are the 5 signs you're in the dark night of the soul. Number 1, you feel disconnected from God. Even though you might be praying, even though you believe, sometimes you just don't feel anything and wonder if he left. But he didn't, and he never will. He's just silent right now because he's building you. Number 2, everything familiar seems to be falling apart. The friendships, the routine, the confidence, it all feels like it's breaking because your comfort is being stripped so your spirit can grow. Number 3, you don't recognize yourself. You're grieving the old version of you, but the new version hasn't shown up yet. You're in the middle. It's like a weird space. In the middle is heavy. Number 4, you're tired, but not from work. You're tired from spiritual stretching, from carrying weight that no one sees, from wrestling with questions you can't answer out loud. Number 5, you feel like your prayers aren't working, not because God isn't real, but because he's not giving relief. He's giving revelation. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. You're not being broken. You're being rebuilt.
Most common questions I see with people going through the dark night of the soul is, how was it triggered? Like, how does the dark night of the soul start? And there's not one right answer, but I'm gonna give you a few reasons. One, grief. You know, you lost something, lost someone, hell, even lost yourself. Heartbreak. You went through a major heartbreak. Whether it's in a relationship, friendship, that's another reason. Two, a big shift in your personal identity. You either lost who you was, you don't know who you are anymore. The person that you are right now is not the person that you want to be, or just those two, and there's another one, but I forgot. Number three, a deep spiritual questioning. Sometimes what I see with people that deconstruct, such as myself, we go through this phase of like questioning everything. And that sometimes triggers a dark night of the soul. Number four, your life changes. So either you lost a job, you lost your home, you lost where you were. Like a major life change sometimes can trigger a dark night of the soul. And I remember in the beginning of starting my spiritual journey, I used to truly fear having a dark night of the soul because everyone talking about it in this bad manner. The reason for the dark night of the soul is supposed to be for deep introspection, which turns into transformation. It's like an initiation for you to become something better, become something wiser, become something more. And what tends to happen is there is a split. There are women that go through a dark night of the soul that don't make it out, right? They stay in that. And then there are women that spend so much time becoming the dark night of the soul that they take it on as their new identity, which that was never supposed to be the case. And these are some reasons why the dark night of the soul will be triggered.
I promise you, the worst thing in the world
Shout out to Real Healing with Lala for those nuggets.
is to feel like a shell of yourself after experiencing some type of trauma.
Or you has to die. Every time you evolve, you gotta leave it back there.
In 2020, more than just COVID happened to me. I experienced like a heavy breakup. You know, the kind of breakup that makes your soul hurt. Like your heart actually feels pain from it. This breakup actually started my dark night of the soul. I turned to spirituality to try to get past that. I was listening to sound bowls and playing frequency music on my headphones as I slept because I was just that heartbroken. Looking back on it now, I know it wasn't the man, because it wasn't the man that I missed even in the heartbreak. It was my ego death that I was having. It was me dying, like that portion of me dying. I was holding on to a decomposing corpse. I had like a bunch of realizations, how much I was people pleasing, how much I was overextending myself. It even went into my employment and how much I was overworking myself. I was just exhausted, heart, body, mind, soul. I realized that the life that I had built, I was disgusted with. I hated every single bit of it, and I was burnt out. I became introverted. I didn't speak to anybody like that, like my closest people, but barely. I kept it real surface on the outside, but I was heavily drinking, was eating all the time. I was just depressed. And the thing is that I wanted to get myself back to where I had been. Like there was a spark that I had, like this drawing energy that I had where I was happy all the time, where I was, you know, a pleasure to be around, a pleasure for myself, and I felt like it was taken from me. When I came out the other side of my dark night of the soul, I learned that I have to set heavy boundaries. I started to do things that give me pleasure. I started to be honest and just say how I feel straight out. And I started to do away with anything that didn't suit me or anyone who was trying to play with me. I spent like almost 2 years in celibacy and just working on myself, like just figuring out who the hell I was now, because that other version of me died. Even after coming out of the dark night of the soul, I had PTSD. I didn't trust a soul. Everything was a red flag. Everywhere was a red flag. Like I would see it in everything. And on my spiritual level, my intuition was heightened. My heart actually vibrated to music, if you could believe that. I started to see angel numbers everywhere I went, to the point now I know what they mean when they show up. Of course, there's a turning point. There's a point where I became like comfortable with solitude. I became comfortable with being lonely. I wasn't even lonely anymore, and I still prefer times of being by myself, but now I'm in a full-fledged relationship that looks stark different to what I had before. The friends that stuck by me while I was going through my dark night of the soul are the friends I still have today, and the ones that couldn't handle it got on. Good riddance. My health is improved. I don't drink as much. I don't eat as much, and I'm extremely active now. I'm just rebuilding my life. So, as she said, that other version of you has to die so that you can become the version of you that you actually want, not the version of you that you're forced to become. Anyway, that's my story. Food for thought.
And that's one of the things that I find when you're going through a dark night of the soul. What I found scary is that feeling of loss of who you were. And it feels like you're so far from being at peace again. And you're so far from being happy. And sometimes you don't even remember the things that used to make you happy. Like you feel like you'll never feel those things again. And it's just hard to see yourself like returning back to some sense of what peace and fulfillment feels like. But I also learned that that's the biggest opportunity, and it's the biggest opportunity to let some of that stuff go, the stuff that's not serving you. You're not going to recognize it in the beginning, but as you get closer to the other side, those things should start emerging, especially if you consciously tapped into it. And as we go through the rest of these videos, hopefully some of the ways to identify that will become clearer to you if you happen to be going through a dark night. One other thing I'll say about that is the friendships that you lose, or we'll say gravitate from during that period, wish them well. Don't, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say don't mourn them, because that's a natural part of the process, but welcome their departure from your life, because they're no longer serving you for whatever reason. And if you're going through any of that, you're questioning those friendships, or if you're just looking at friendships in a different way because they're just not resonating with you, it's okay to let them go. That was definitely one of the things that was a noticeable change as I went through my dark night.
You want it because it's familiar. And a lot of times we like to resort to the familiar, even if it's toxic. You know, so you have to leave that corpse.
So I don't talk about this enough. I don't talk about spiritual awakenings. I don't talk about the dark night of the soul. I don't talk about those things because I'm not a spiritual teacher. But I can tell you that I have gone through the dark night of the soul over the last couple of years. You can see my progression in my videos. A year ago, I was a man who was broken, a man who was angry, a man who was confused and had no idea who he was. I was a man who had lost everything and could not understand why. But today, I'm a man who understands. I see purpose in the pain. I understand that I had to lose everything so the things that were meant for me could come into my life. I'm a totally different man today than I was a year ago. And you can see that in my videos. What we have to understand about going through a spiritual awakening or going through a dark night of the soul, it's all happening for you and not to you. You're losing all of these things so that the things that are meant for you can come in. And it's a very painful process. It's a very confusing process. And you don't understand it when you're in the middle of it. But then one day you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And you start to understand why you had to lose everything. Why you had to go through so much hardship. Why you had to go through so much pain. You had to be reborn. You had to be reborn so you could step into your truth, your authenticity, become the person you were always meant to become. You're going through that because you're meant for more. So if you're going through that process right now and you're confused, you're in pain, just keep going. It does get better. You just have to keep moving forward. You can't give up, and do all the research you can on spiritual awakening, dark night of the soul, so you have a better understanding of what you're going through.
The experience you call the dark night of the soul is not a punishment, failure, or deviation. It is a sacred passage. It is the sacred unraveling of all that is false. The dark night is the death of illusion. It arrives when a being has reached a point where the outer structures of identity, belief, and desire no longer serve the evolution of the soul. It is the moment the personality self can no longer carry the weight of separation. The ego, built upon fear and control, begins to dissolve, and the soul begins to remember. Yes, this experience often precedes a spiritual awakening, but it is not the awakening itself. It is the void between worlds, the chrysalis phase where the caterpillar dies but the butterfly is not yet born. Many beings encounter it after loss, betrayal, illness, or disillusionment, but the true cause is deeper. It is the soul's cry for reunion with Source. During this passage, meaning may evaporate. Joy may vanish. The world may feel hollow, cruel, or false. This is not because you are broken. It is because your inner truth is rising and everything misaligned must be seen. The soul whispers, there is more than this. You are not who you thought you were. You cannot go back. And so, the old world burns. If allowed, the dark night births humility, surrender, and eventually, a radiant clarity. The flame of truth begins to ignite, not as belief, but as direct knowing. This is the soil in which awakening is planted. But not all who enter the dark night emerge awakened. Some become bitter, others numb. The outcome is not guaranteed. It is your choice, your surrender, your willingness to lose everything to find what cannot be lost. We honor all who walk this valley. If you are in this space, know this. You are not dying. You are being reborn. Hold nothing, cling to nothing, and listen. Beneath the silence, the infinite is already calling you home.
There are 12 great awakenings that a human being can have in this lifetime. Most people will never get to the 8th. And if they do get to the 8th, it is very hard to get past that 8th awakening. But today I'm talking about the 2nd awakening, the dark night of the soul. Specifically, I want to talk about how this one you must go through in isolation. Almost all awakenings you do go through in isolation, but the dark night of the soul is an absolute must. Now, a lot of you have gone through the dark night of the soul, I know. We've all been there. But for those who never have, I'm going to break it down for you. This is a period in your life where everything crumbles. And maybe it's not that the actual 3D world is crumbling, but every emotion you're feeling about yourself, your feelings of the past, everything comes to a head. And it is absolutely a nightmarish experience where you have to fully go through yourself. You are living within a place of severe anxiety, depression. It's a dark place. It's called the dark night of the soul for a reason. This is a time where that individual will feel completely abandoned, have nowhere to turn. It truly is the essence of isolation. But on the other side of it is the 3rd great awakening.
You're spiritual, you've either felt this, you're feeling this, or you're going to feel it at some point. And it's not pleasant, so let me share how to get over it. Save this for later, because it will be intense. Let me guess, you've got a lot of doubts, a ton of questions you can't answer. You feel like you don't fit in with your friends or family anymore. You're feeling a deep sense of sadness for the world. And at this point, you're not even sure if God is real because of all the suffering that's going on. Don't worry, kind soul, I've been there too. Dark Night of the Soul is referenced in this book here. Quite a complex explanation, but the simplified version of it. The world's going to shit and you want to take it all on by yourself. You want to be a voice of light. You want to be a voice of the right. And you want to illuminate the darkness that is night. So now we know how you're feeling. Let's teach you how to navigate it. Your higher self just woke up and it told you need to get your shit in check. And here's how we're going to do it. Make sure you save this for later. Basically, your ego has been in the driver's seat this whole time. You've actually woken up from this long slumber. You want to get behind the wheel again. First thing you need to do is find out what the fuck is important to you. You need to begin a cleansing process. Either get a notebook or watch this video when you have one. And I want you to write 2 lists. List number 1, what did the old version of you want to live your life like? List number 2, how does the new version of you want to live this life? There will be some crossover. And that's a good thing because it's going to help you. Because this is how you're going to get strong as fuck. Under these 2 lists, I then want you to write down what you believe in. Like, what is your version of God? Are you religious? Are you spiritual? Whatever that might look like. What are you? Just write down what God looks like in your head on a piece of paper. Define him in your own words. Next, you can write this out or say this to yourself. It's entirely your choice. Dear God, forgive me for being lost this whole time. Been asleep for a while. but I've woke up now, and I'm ready to serve you again. And I want you to mean it, like feel it deep in your soul. And as soon as you've done this, you're either going to breathe very deeply, you're going to get one of those spiritual shivers, or you're kind of just going to feel a hell of a lot lighter for a second. Now you're ready for the next bit. The list of who you were, the list of who you want to be. Find the crossover points, because these are going to be the drivers to help you grow. These are the parts of your ego and higher self that get along together. These are the parts that you can nurture and develop because you're already amazing at them. Then you're going to do 4 things. Use those crossover points and write down 3 words as to what the relationship with your family looks like. Then relationships with your friends, just 3 words only. Then think of 3 types of jobs that you can do that combine the old self and the new self together so you can find a new purpose. Then once you've got those written down, just look at that list and smile, because how much closer are you to getting through the dark night of the soul? Infinitely. Because now you know the type of person that you want to be. You can work on making that happen. Now we're going to teach you how to navigate it. Sadly, everybody's map is different. However, everyone's got a couple of checkpoints that are the same. Number 1, be patient. Yes, there's a lot of suffering in the world right now, and you're suffering too. And that feels heavy. Don't worry. First checkpoint is patience. This darkness that you feel of everything being overwhelming is only temporary. You've just written down a bunch of candles that are going to help you light the way. Number 2 is understanding that this burden that you carry is not one you carry alone. There are a lot of people waking up right now who are wanting to fight the same battle as you. And we're fighting this war together. So you get on your feet quickly as you can. We'll keep an eye on the rest in the meantime. Work on yourself, kind soul. You've got this. Checkpoint number 3. Don't be too hard on yourself. You've woken up now. Celebrate the fact that you woke up. Because you could have been asleep like a lot of other people still. Don't feel guilty about waking up and feeling overwhelmed. Celebrate the fact that you woke up and now you can do something about it for the other people who are still asleep. I hope you're taking notes. Checkpoint number 4. Start to build a positive support network. I'm happy for you to follow me because I just want to share this information with you so you can heal and grow. I understand that the pain feels unbearable, but it's not like that all the time. Once you get out of the darkness and you're in the light, you understand that the darkness is still there, but because you've now got a newfound light, you're not worried about the darkness. You're focused on how you can let the light shine, and it's guaranteed to happen. There's so many great communities on TikTok. I'm trying to build mine. There's so many more. Find one that resonates with you. The final checkpoint. Remember when I told you to write down your idea of God? You need to start speaking to them every day. And there's a bunch of ways you can do that. Prayer, affirmation, meditation, mindfulness by going outside without any music, without any distractions, just you and your breath. You can also nurture some part of creation. Water a plant, feed the birds, talk to your pets, but treat them with the same respect you would treat yourself, as though you were the best thing that ever existed. Look at the wonder and the awe of creation that your version of God created for you. Look at how fantastic and amazing it is. Feel how fantastic and amazing it is. Do this every day, even if it's 5 minutes. Best in the morning, first thing. Do it before you go to bed as well. Comment if you want some ideas if you're stuck here, because I'd love to share them with you. Or you can follow and DM me, because I can understand it might be a personal thing and you don't want to share it publicly. I'd love to be able to support you. And let me tell you where it's going to benefit you now. You're going to believe in something that you can't explain, and that belief is going to be so strong that deep inside, all it's going to feel like is just something wanting to come up out of you all the time. Trying to rise up out of you, raising your chest and your breath and everything. It feels incredible. You develop a sense of intimacy that's unlike no other. Not just with other people, but with yourself and with the divine. And that intimacy sometimes feels like butterflies in your stomach, like when you're in love. It's kind of very cool. It's so great to look forward to. You start to understand who you are as a person better, because now you know that you've woken up. There's things that no longer serve you. And they are good for you sometimes, but not necessarily all the time. It's time to focus on the things that are good for you now. You also realize that you can't change the whole world. You can just change your world by realizing
Realizing what the old you was good at and what the new you wants to do, you can bundle that together to build something that serves the environment around you in a positive, constructive, and wholesome way. And that gives you a sense of serenity and inner peace. And that's how you get through the dark night of the soul. Make sure you do this with a notebook. If you didn't do it with a notebook up until now, get yourself one, rewatch this video, redo it, follow me, comment thank you, because gratitude will change your life. Share this with a friend who also feels like this, they're just a bit lost in life. I just want to be able to make sure that you guys are shining your light as best as you possibly can to wake up and do your part to serve creation and the universe. We're no longer slaves anymore. We are awake. We are aware. And life is beautiful, baby. Have a graced and beautiful day.
We are awake, we are aware. I love this video. It's a little bit longer, but I wanted to include it because it gives you actionable steps you can do. And that's what I meant when I was saying consciously tapping into getting through your dark night if you're in the midst of it right now. When we're journaling, we're getting more of our senses involved, our physical body, our hands, our minds, our eyes, when we're writing. When he talks about going outside, when he talks about communicating with your idea of who God is, like every day, this is actively tapping into your growth, doing your dark night. And that's what it's all about. That's the stuff that's going to bring you the understanding. That's the stuff that's going to help you process all the junk, all the confusion, all the stuff that you're feeling. So I felt like this video was super helpful. Thank you to Majestic Mindsets for those nuggets, and check them out. This next video, the last one, is a little bit of a longer one, but I think this creator makes you ask some very good questions to help you really tune in to what is your specific dark night of the soul. And those questions that make you dive a little deeper into uncovering the things that you need to figure out to successfully get you to the other side. So let's go.
Let's talk about the dark night of the soul. My name is Trish Law. I'm a trauma-informed life coach, and I help people remember who the fuck they are.
Hey.
Dark night of the soul, also referred to as depression if you went to a doctor. Dark night of the soul is very lucrative for the pharmaceutical companies. But we'll save that for another post.
It damn sure feels like depression, I will say that.
Dark night of the soul is something every single human being goes through at least 3 to 7 times in a life. At least, sometimes more. Sometimes you have a few big ones. But what is it really? And what does it feel like? And what does it mean? And how do we navigate it? I've said many times as a life coach, if I was going to specialize, if I was forced to specialize in like very specific things, I would specialize in transitions of life and dark nights of the soul. It's a fascinating transformational process. And it's super uncomfortable and it feels like hell. And I feel like the reason it's so difficult to navigate is because people don't know how to associate the discomfort with something more meaningful than I'm depressed and a piece of shit. So the dark night of the soul is a state of becoming. It's a transformation. It's a metamorphosis. It's like when you're shedding skin and you go through this vulnerable phase before your new skin has formed. Typically, dark nights of the soul often look like midlife crisis or a job loss or a death or a relationship ending, a divorce, a huge loss of some kind. In other words, like dark nights of the soul are not something that people look forward to experiencing. They're often unpredictable. They come out of nowhere. And I guess one of the ways to describe it emotionally is very dark, very overwhelming, very dense and uncomfortable. So this blanket statement of depression is something I think we can all relate to when we emotionally take a biopsy of what it feels like to be in the dark night of the soul. And sometimes it feels like you're dying. And it's because parts of you are trying to die, because parts of you have to die in order for you to move closer to who you're becoming. You can't go through the dark night of the soul in the cheap seats. There's no easy way through it. And I think it would be so much easier to navigate this experience that every human being goes through if we had better language and more meaning assigned to it. I also think we could expedite it a little bit. So what's the simplest way to explain the dark night of the soul? The dark night of the soul is when you're stuck between the place of not being able to go back to who you were, right? The version of yourself that you can relate to the most, but you haven't yet adopted an updated, more relevant identity just yet. In other words, you're kind of stuck between two places. Catholic people, this will sound like purgatory, where you're not on earth anymore, but you're not in heaven. You're in like the waiting room. And it's really, really tricky because it goes up against the ego's greatest need, which is certainty. So the ego is constantly trying to push us back into the version of ourselves that we are most familiar with, because that's all the ego knows. The ego needs certainty. And this is why talking your way through the dark night, thinking your way through the dark night, or trying to go back to what worked previously never seems to reconcile. So during the dark night of the soul, when we're in that metamorphosis, when we're in that middle phase, two things are typically happening. It's like we are growing and healing simultaneously. And we're growing and healing simultaneously, which truthfully, my sweet dear friends, is very much like if you've ever got food poisoning and it's coming out both ends. Yeah, it's kind of energetically like that. So let me explain that, which will help you understand why the dark night is so fucking uncomfortable. Because it's not just one thing, it's two things happening at once. Aren't you glad you had that analogy? Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. So one part of the discomfort is that you are reconciling old trauma. You cannot think your way through trauma. You have to feel your way through trauma. So I'll explain it to you the way I experienced one of my big ones. When my business collapsed in 2016, it was just a fucking business. Like, it's not normal to be that depressed when your business collapses, but I was reconciling trauma that I had buried for the better part of 35 to 40 years. In other words, all the shit I had never fully dealt with. And P.S., this is after copious amounts of therapy because you can't talk your way through fucking trauma. You can only feel your way through it. It started to all come up. It was like everything I'd repressed, everything I had run from, every bit of shame, all the fucking shit from my childhood, everything started to come up at once. It was like a zit that finally came to a head. So that's the first part of the discomfort, is that old shit that's starting to come up through your nervous system. You cannot think your way through trauma. You have to feel it, and you can't heal it unless you feel it. So that's the first part of it. Incredibly uncomfortable. Oh, the worst. Imagine every single unfelt emotion you've had coming up at the same time. So that's fun. The other part...
You can't heal it unless you feel it. So if you find yourself avoiding feeling the thing, don't do that.
The dark night that is especially uncomfortable is that you are growing at the same time. Now, I'm a life coach. I play offense and defense with people all the time. I work people through dark nights of the soul at the same time. Healing trauma is a bitch. If you've ever been to one of my breathwork classes, it often sounds like an exorcism. Let me tell you something right now. Trauma healing is easier than growing. Growth is incredibly hard and incredibly uncomfortable. So when you're in a dark night, you're also going through the growth phase of discomfort. You ever been the first day at a new job? Here's at the restaurant. You're like, where are the spoons? And you feel like so awkward and uncomfortable. You're like, I have no idea what's happening here. Like, I don't know I'm so uncomfortable. Or you start a new relationship or any of those things, or you quit your job and you start your entrepreneurial endeavor. Like, it is so fucking scary and it's so uncertain and there's nothing solid to hold on to. So uncomfortable. So these two things are happening at the same time, right? These two things are happening at the same time. Now, your brain cannot conceptualize this. This is so far above your brain's pay grade. And we're so uncomfortable. We want it to stop. We feel depressed. We feel lost. We feel overwhelmed. And we have no language for it. Now you do. It's called the dark night of the soul. It's an evolution, it's a transformation, and it's so hard. You're losing parts of your identity, you're losing your certainties, you can't go back through that door anymore, but the parts of you that are dying are not going to fit through the door of where you're going next, so you're getting stripped. Those of you that have been through this, the stripping process, oh, you know, everything. You can see why I like to help people through this, because I'm like, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. You're just going to have to shut the fuck up and look at me and trust me when I tell you what to do. And I'm going to tell you what to do if you feel like you're in a dark night of the soul. Now, whenever you're in the dark night, the ego is very active. And the ego has 4 main survival archetypes, which are going to try to assign meaning to this. And the ego is always going to try to push you back to the most familiar version of yourself. 10 out of 10 do not recommend. Do not go back to the narcissistic partner. Do not go back to the toxic job. Do not go back to the fucking shitty family dynamics without boundaries. Pause. What people typically do in the dark night is they ask, why me? How long is this going to last? I can't do this. Like, why is this happening to me? How can I make this stop? Very obvious questions to ask, but they're not going to help you get through that dark night any faster. This is where you have to rely on your soul and your spirit. It is called a dark night of the soul for a reason. Your soul is evolving. Your soul consciousness is evolving on this plane. Better questions to ask during the dark night, which will help expedite it. What is this here to teach me? What am I supposed to unlearn? What parts of myself are no longer necessary for my evolution on this planet? What do I need to face within myself? What parts of myself have I ignored and or abandoned? What roles am I playing that no longer serve me? What circumstances am I repeating that I am not getting the memo I've outgrown? This is where you're going to have to rely on things like faith and trust. I have a friend that often describes the dark night of the soul as when we let go of one trapeze bar, but we haven't quite attached to the other. There's that space in between, and it's so scary, but it's a beautiful thing. If you can ask yourself some of the questions I just talked to you about during a time like this, you meditate, you journal, you lean in towards your uncomfortable feelings. You know that growth is going to be uncomfortable, and you know that healing is hard. You'll come out of that so beautifully on the other side, and you're going to see a version of yourself you've never seen before. It's pretty beautiful.
And those questions, that's why I really wanted to include this video, even though it's a little bit lengthier. Those questions are super important to help you navigate through it, to kind of quicken the process, if you will. And even if it doesn't quicken it, because we're going to go through it in whatever length of time we need to go through it, at least you'll get more out of it. And the deeper you can tap in and tune in and work stuff out, pull up all the junk, the brighter you'll shine on the other side. I think the lighter you'll feel, the cleaner your energy will be, and the more energetic you will become, because you're not carrying around all that stuff anymore. So that's why I said earlier that you squander the massive opportunity a dark night affords you if you don't consciously tapping into it. Those last 2 videos, I think, give some very good tools, powerful tools about how to consciously tap into it if you don't know how to do it. It definitely taught me a lot. So I'll just leave it there. Like I always say, I hope these videos, these nuggets resonated with you on some level. I thank you again for tuning in. I hope it helped answer some questions for you, or at least get you started or pointed into the direction of resources that you can use. You go to TikTok, go to Google, just look into the resources that can help you through it, because there's no guidebook, there's no instruction manual. Everybody's story is going to look different, but there are things that work, and they work across the board. Different things work for different people. And like I always say, go and check those TikTok creators out. I appreciate their time in putting this stuff out there. I hope you resonated with some of these stories and learned about what some of the triggers of dark nights can be. I didn't think about the big things like a loss of a job, a loss of a relationship, change, a death of someone. Those kind of things trigger it. I thought they just onset like all of a sudden. So, hey, we learn and we grow. Again, I thank you for tuning in. And if you found value in this, drop a like. And I will see you on the next one. Namaste.